My parents called me a burden while living off my money. Your brother is better, they sneered. I cut them off and evicted them. My name is Sarah. I'm 31 years old, and for most of my life, I believed that love was something you earned through sacrifice. I believed that if I just gave enough time, enough money, enough of myself, my parents would finally see me. They would finally look at me the way they looked at my younger brother, Marcus. I was wrong. This is the story of how I became invisible in my own family, how I paid for everything while being told I was worth nothing, and how I finally took back control in a way none of them saw coming. But let me start at the beginning. Growing up in our household in suburban Phoenix, Arizona, there were always two versions of success. There was Marcus's version, loud, flashy, celebrated. And then there was mine, quiet, steady, ignored. Marcus was the golden child from the moment he learned to walk. Athletic, charismatic, charming in that effortless way that made adults light up when he entered a room. He played varsity basketball in high school, dated the homecoming queen, got accepted to Arizona State University on a partial sports scholarship. My parents treated every one of his accomplishments like a national holiday. I, on the other hand, was the responsible one, the boring one. I got straight A's, but that was expected. I worked part-time jobs throughout high school and college, but that was what you're supposed to do. I graduated with a degree in accounting and got a stable job at a mid-sized firm, but that was nothing special. When I bought my first car at 23 with money I'd saved myself, my father's only comment was, "Took you long enough." When Marcus bought his first car at 25, a used BMW he couldn't actually afford, my parents threw him a barbecue and invited the whole neighborhood. I learned early that my value in this family wasn't measured by who I was, but by what I could provide. And I provided plenty. It started small. It always does. When I was 26, my father had a minor heart attack. Nothing life-threatening, but it scared him. The medical bills piled up, co-pays, prescriptions, follow-up appointments. My parents' insurance covered most of it, but not everything. They were stressed. My mother cried at the kitchen table one night, looking at the stack of envelopes. I offered to help. Just temporarily, I told myself. Just until they got back on their feet. I paid $3,000 toward the medical bills that month. My parents thanked me, but there was something transactional about it. Like I'd paid for a service, not helped my family. Marcus, who was 24 at the time and working a sales job he constantly complained about, didn't contribute a cent. When I asked him if he could chip in, he laughed and said, "I'm barely making rent, Sarah. Besides, you're the one with the big girl job." That became the pattern. My father's health stabilized, but other expenses appeared. The water heater broke. The property taxes were due. The car needed new tires. Every time, my mother would call me, never Marcus, and explain the situation with this tone of weary resignation, like she was doing me a favor by letting me know they needed money. And every time I paid. By the time I was 28, I was covering their mortgage. $1,200 a month, like clockwork, transferred directly from my account to theirs. I also paid the utilities, another $300. I bought groceries when I visited. I paid for my father's medications. I even paid for the lawn service because my father's doctor said he shouldn't be pushing a mower in the Arizona heat. I calculated it once, in a moment of masochistic curiosity. Over 3 years, I had given my parents over $70,000. Marcus had given them nothing, but Marcus was thriving, according to my mother. He'd gotten promoted. He'd moved into a nicer apartment. He was dating a girl named Sienna who worked in marketing and wore designer sunglasses. "We're so proud of him," my mother would say, beaming. "He's really making something of himself." And me? I was just there, the dependable daughter, the ATM with a heartbeat. Thanksgiving 2023 was supposed to be a normal family gathering. I drove to my parents' house that morning with a pumpkin pie I'd baked from scratch and a bottle of wine I'd spent too much on. I told myself this year would be different. This year, maybe they'd acknowledge what I'd been doing for them. Maybe they'd say thank you. Maybe they'd see me. I was delusional. I arrived around 10 in the morning to help with the cooking. My mother was in the kitchen, prepping the turkey. I asked if she needed help. She barely looked at me. "You can set the table, I guess," she said, waving vaguely toward the dining room. I set the table. I chopped vegetables. I poured drinks. I did everything quietly, efficiently, the way I always did. Marcus arrived around noon with Sienna. She was gorgeous, tall, blonde, confident in a way I'd never been. She wore a cream-colored sweater that probably cost more than my car payment. My mother dropped everything to greet them. She hugged Marcus like he'd just returned from war, gushing about how handsome he looked, how wonderful it was to see him. She hugged Sienna and complimented her outfit, her hair, her everything. I stood by the counter, holding a wooden spoon, invisible. We sat down to eat around 2. My father said grace, thanking God for family and blessings and good fortune. Then he raised his glass to Marcus. "To my son," he said, his voice full of pride. "Another year of success. We couldn't be more proud." Everyone clinked glasses. I did too, mechanically, even though the words felt like a slap. Dinner conversation revolved around Marcus, his promotion, his new apartment, his plans to maybe, possibly, potentially start his own business someday. Sienna talked about her job, her spin classes, her upcoming trip to Cabo. My parents hung on every word. I tried to contribute once. I mentioned that I'd been given a new client at work, a major account that was a big deal for someone my age. My mother said, "That's nice, dear," and immediately turned back to Marcus to ask about his business idea. I felt something crack inside me. Not break, not yet, but crack. A fissure forming in the foundation of my patience. After dinner, I helped clean up while Marcus and Sienna sat on the couch, laughing at something on his phone. My mother was washing dishes, and I was drying. "Mom," I said quietly, "I wanted to talk to you about something." "Hom." She didn't look at me. "I've been thinking about the mortgage payments. I've been covering them for a while now, and I'm starting to feel the strain financially. I was wondering if maybe we could come up with a plan where I'm not paying the full amount every month. Maybe Marcus could." She turned off the water and looked at me. Really looked at me for the first time all day. Her expression wasn't kind. "Sarah," she said, her voice cold, "you make more money than Marcus. You don't have his expenses. You don't have a social life to maintain. This is what family does. We help each other." Besides," she continued, cutting me off, "it's not like you have anything else to spend it on. You should be grateful you're in a position to help." Grateful. That word echoed in my head as I stood there, dish towel in hand, staring at my mother's back as she returned to the dishes. I should be grateful. For what? For the privilege of being used? I put the towel down and walked into the living room. My father was in his recliner, watching football. Marcus and Sienna were cuddled on the couch. "I'm going to head out," I said to no one in particular. My father grunted. Marcus glanced up. "Already?" "We were going to watch a movie later." "I have an early morning," I lied. My mother came out of the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel. She looked annoyed. "You're always running off, Sarah. Can't you just stay and spend time with your family for once?" I stared at her. I wanted to scream. I wanted to list every single thing I'd done for them, every dollar I'd spent, every moment I'd been ignored. But I didn't. Instead, I said Happy Thanksgiving and walked out the door. As I reached my car, I heard Marcus's voice through the open window. "She's so dramatic," he said, laughing. "Always playing the victim." Sienna's voice followed. "Does she ever, have fun? She seems so uptight." My mother's response was the final nail. "Sarah's always been difficult," she said, her tone casual, dismissive. "She's just not like Marcus. He's the one we can count on to make us proud. Sarah's, well, she's just Sarah." I sat in my car for 5 minutes, hands gripping the steering wheel, tears streaming down my face. Then I drove home, and I made a decision. That night, I opened my laptop and canceled the automatic transfer to my parents' mortgage. I called the utility companies and removed my credit card from their accounts. I sent a single text to my mother. I won't be able to continue covering expenses. I'm sure you'll figure it out. I didn't explain. I didn't justify. I just stopped. The next morning, my phone rang. It was my father. I didn't answer. He called again an hour later. I let it go to voicemail. Sarah, your mother says you're not paying the mortgage anymore. What the hell is going on? Call me back. Now. I deleted the voicemail. My mother texted me that afternoon. This is incredibly immature, Sarah. We're your parents. You don't just abandon family because your feelings are hurt. Grow up. I didn't respond. Marcus texted me that evening. Mom says you're being a brat. Seriously? Over Thanksgiving? You need to chill. I blocked his number. For the next 2 weeks, my phone was a battleground. Voicemails, texts, missed calls. My mother's messages grew more aggressive. My father's grew more desperate. Marcus sent a final text before I blocked him, calling me selfish and ungrateful. I ignored all of it. I felt hollow at first. Not sad, not angry, just empty. Like I'd spent so long being the person they needed that I didn't know who I was without them. But slowly, that hollowness began to fill with something else. Clarity. December came and went. I spent Christmas alone in my apartment, watching movies and eating takeout. It was quiet, peaceful even. Then, in early January, my cousin Melissa called me. Melissa and I had been close as kids but drifted apart as adults. She lived in Tucson and only saw my parents occasionally. Sarah, she said, her voice cautious. I don't know if I should be telling you this, but your mom has been saying some things. What kind of things? She's telling people you had some kind of breakdown, that you're not stable. She's making it sound like you just snapped. She's painting herself as the victim, like you abandoned them for no reason. I closed my eyes. Of course she was. Thanks for letting me know, Melissa. Are you okay? I'm fine, I said. And for the first time in months, I meant it. I didn't engage with the rumors. I didn't defend myself. I just kept living my life. But in mid-January, something happened that changed everything. I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Ms. Bennett? This is Lisa Tran from Desert Valley Credit Union. I'm calling about a loan application we received with your name on it. My stomach dropped. I didn't apply for a loan. There was a pause. According to our records, you co-signed on a business loan for $50,000 with a Marcus Bennett. The application was submitted 3 weeks ago. My hands went numb. I didn't sign anything. Another pause, longer this time. Ms. Bennett, we'll need to verify this. Can you come into the branch? I made an appointment for the next day. At the credit union, Lisa Tran showed me the application. There, in black and white, was my name, my social security number, my income information, and a signature that looked like mine, but wasn't. This is fraud, I said, my voice shaking. Lisa nodded, her expression sympathetic. I'm very sorry, Ms. Bennett. We'll begin an investigation immediately. You'll need to file a police report. I left the credit union and sat in my car, staring at the paperwork. Marcus had forged my signature. He'd stolen my identity to get money for some business venture I knew nothing about. And the worst part? My parents had probably known, maybe even helped. I called a lawyer that afternoon. Her name was Rebecca Torres, and she came highly recommended by a coworker. I explained everything, the years of financial support, the sudden cutoff, the forged loan application. Rebecca listened, taking notes, her expression growing more serious. Sarah, she said when I finished, you have a very strong case. Identity theft, fraud, financial elder abuse in reverse. This is serious. But I need to ask, are you prepared for what comes next? Taking legal action against family is hard. Emotionally, socially, legally. It's going to get ugly. I thought about Thanksgiving, about my mother's cold dismissal, about Marcus's laughter, about every ignored birthday, every unacknowledged sacrifice, every moment I'd been made to feel small. I'm ready, I said. Over the next month, Rebecca and I built a fortress of documentation. I pulled bank statements showing every transfer to my parents, mortgage payments, utility bills, medical expenses, groceries. I calculated the total. $73,480 over 3.5 years. I filed a police report for identity theft. I froze my credit. I changed every password, every security question, every piece of digital access my family might have had to my life. Rebecca subpoenaed records from the credit union. The loan had been approved and dispersed, $50,000 directly to Marcus. He'd used my credit score, my income, my identity to secure money he had no intention of paying back. In late February, Marcus was arrested. The police called to inform me. I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no sadness, just a quiet, cold resolve. My mother called me 20 minutes later, screaming, "How could you do this to your brother? He made a mistake. He was trying to start a business. You're destroying this family." I hung up. She called back. I didn't answer. She texted, "You're going to regret this. You're going to lose everyone. You'll end up alone and miserable, and it will be your own fault." I blocked her number. My father tried next, his approach more measured, more manipulative. "Sarah, sweetheart, I know you're hurt. I know we haven't always appreciated you the way we should. But this is too far. Marcus is your brother. He's family. Can't we work this out without lawyers and police? Can't we just talk?" "No," I said and hung up. I blocked him too. By March, my parents' financial situation was in freefall. Without my monthly payments, they'd missed 3 mortgage payments. The bank had sent a notice of default. Foreclosure proceedings were beginning. I learned this through Melissa, who'd driven up to Phoenix to check on them. "Sarah, it's bad," she said over the phone. "They're panicking. Your mom looks like she's aged 10 years. Your dad barely talks. And Marcus is living with them now because he can't afford his apartment anymore." "That's not my problem," I said. "I know. I thought you should know." I appreciated Melissa's loyalty, but I didn't need updates. I was done. In April, Marcus's court date arrived. Rebecca had advised me not to attend. It was a preliminary hearing, mostly procedural, but I went anyway. I wanted to see him face the consequences. He looked terrible. Thinner, pale, his usual cocky demeanor replaced by something hollow. When he saw me, his expression flickered, surprise, then anger, then something that might have been shame. He pleaded guilty as part of a deal Rebecca had warned me about. Identity theft, fraud, probation, restitution, community service. No jail time, which felt like a slap, but Rebecca assured me the restitution order was significant. "He'll be paying you back for years," she said, "and he has a felony on his record now. That follows you forever." Outside the courthouse, my mother tried to approach me. My father held her back, but she shouted anyway. "Are you happy now, Sarah? Are you proud of yourself? You've ruined his life." I looked at her, really looked at her, and felt nothing. No anger, no guilt, no love. Just emptiness where she used to be. I walked away. In May, I received a letter from the bank. The foreclosure on my parents' home was proceeding. The auction was scheduled for mid-June. I stared at that letter for a long time. That house. I'd grown up in that house. I'd paid for that house, not just in recent years, but in every sacrifice I'd made, every moment I'd been invisible, every piece of myself I'd given away to a family that didn't value me. An idea began to form. I called Rebecca. How would I go about buying a house at a foreclosure auction? There was a pause. "Sarah, are you thinking what I think you're thinking?" "Maybe." She laughed, a genuine, surprised laugh. "You'd need to set up an LLC to keep your identity hidden during the bidding. You'd need proof of funds, a cashier's check, and a very good poker face. But yes, it's possible. Let's do it. Over the next 3 weeks, we set up Bennett Holdings LLC. Rebecca prepared the documentation. I liquidated some investments, took a small loan against my 401k, and put together $285,000, enough to cover the estimated auction price plus expenses. I also prepared a notarized statement detailing every payment I'd made to my parents, signed affidavits from my bank, and a letter I'd written outlining the financial abuse I'd endured. I wasn't just buying a house. I was reclaiming my life. The auction was held on a scorching Tuesday in mid-June at the county courthouse. I wore sunglasses and a baseball cap, sitting in the back of the room. There were maybe 15 people there, investors mostly flipping through property listings. My parents' house was lot number 7. When the auctioneer called it, my heart pounded, so hard I thought people could hear it. 3247 Saguaro Drive, Phoenix, Arizona. 4-bedroom, 2-bath, 2,100 square feet. Starting bid, $180,000. Someone bid $180,000. Someone else bid $190,000. I waited. $200,000. $210,000. The bidding slowed. $220,000. Silence. Do I hear $225,000? I raised my hand. $225,000 to the lady in the back. Another bidder jumped in. $230,000. I countered. $240,000. Silence. $240,000 going once, going twice. The other bidder shook his head and sat down. Sold to Bennett Holdings LLC for $240,000. I walked out of that courthouse with the deed to my childhood home in my hand. I waited 2 weeks before I acted. I wanted the ownership transfer to be ironclad, the paperwork flawless. Then, on a Tuesday morning, I had the sheriff's office serve an eviction notice to 3247 Saguaro Drive. My parents had 30 days to vacate. Rebecca had advised me to handle everything through legal channels. No direct contact. But I knew my parents wouldn't go quietly. I was right. My mother showed up at my apartment 3 days after the eviction notice. I don't know how she got past the building security, but there she was, pounding on my door at 7 in the morning. "Sarah, open this door. I know you're in there." I didn't answer. "You can't do this. This is our home. Your father and I have lived here for 30 years. You can't just throw us out." I stayed silent. She pounded harder. "You vindictive, selfish, ungrateful bitch. After everything we did for you. We raised you. We fed you. And this is how you repay us." I called building security. They escorted her out. She tried calling. I didn't answer. She sent emails. I deleted them. My father tried a different approach. He sent a letter, handwritten, which was unusual for him. "Sarah, I know you're angry. I know we hurt you. But please don't do this. Your mother is falling apart. We have nowhere to go. I'm begging you, as your father, to reconsider. We can make this right. We can be a family again." I read the letter once, then shredded it. Too little, too late. On the day my parents were required to vacate, I drove to the house. I didn't go inside, I didn't need to. I just sat in my car across the street and watched. A moving truck was parked in the driveway. My father was carrying boxes, his movements slow and defeated. My mother sat on the front steps, crying. Marcus was there too, loading furniture with the mechanical efficiency of someone who'd given up. None of them saw me. I watched as they packed up their lives, piece by piece. I watched as my mother looked back at the house one last time before climbing into their car. I watched as they drove away, and then when the street was quiet, I got out of my car and walked up to the front door. I unlocked it with the key Rebecca had given me and stepped inside. The house was empty. Bare walls, scuffed floors, the faint echo of 30 years of life. I walked through each room slowly, remembering. The kitchen, where I'd cooked countless meals. The living room, where I'd been ignored during countless holidays. The hallway, where family photos had hung, all of Marcus, none of me. My old bedroom, now just an empty box with a view of the backyard. I felt nothing. No sadness, no nostalgia. Just relief. This house had been a prison, and now it was mine. Over the next 6 months, I renovated the house from top to bottom. New floors, new paint, new kitchen, new everything. I erased every trace of the family that had lived there and rebuilt it into something new. But I didn't move in. Instead, I did something better. In December, almost exactly a year after I'd cut my family off, I held a ribbon-cutting ceremony at 3247 Saguaro Drive. The house was now the Sarah Bennett Transitional Home for Women, a nonprofit I'd started with Rebecca's help, funded by a grant I'd written and a portion of my savings. It provided temporary housing for women escaping financial abuse, domestic violence, or family exploitation. 6 bedrooms, fully furnished, with resources for legal aid, counseling, and job placement. I stood on the front steps that day, surrounded by board members, donors, and the first 3 residents, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Pride. Not the hollow, desperate kind I'd chased from my parents. Real pride. The kind you earn by building something good from something broken. My parents tried to reach out one more time. It was my father calling from a number I didn't recognize in February. I answered without thinking. Sarah. His voice was tired, small. I wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything. Your mother. And we didn't understand what we were doing to you. We took you for granted. We hurt you. And I'm sorry. I was silent for a long moment. Where are you living now? I asked. With your Aunt Linda. In Flagstaff. It's temporary. And Marcus. He's struggling. The felony. The restitution payments. He can barely find work. Good, I said quietly. Sarah, Dad, I don't forgive you. I don't forgive any of you. Maybe someday I will, but not now. Not yet. You spent my whole life making me feel worthless while taking everything I had to give. You don't get to apologize your way out of that. I understand, he said, his voice breaking. I hope you do, I said. Goodbye, Dad. I hung up. I didn't block the number, but he never called again. It's been 2 years now since Thanksgiving 2023. 2 years since I walked out of my parents' house for the last time as their daughter. I'm 33 now. I still work at the accounting firm, but I've also started a consulting business on the side, helping small nonprofits manage their finances. The transitional home is thriving. We've housed 23 women so far, and 12 have moved into permanent housing. I'm in therapy, working through the complex grief of losing a family I never really had. Some days are hard. Some days I still feel that old ache, that wish that things had been different. But most days I feel free. I drive past the house sometimes just to see it. There's always someone sitting on the porch, a new resident, starting over, finding her footing. The lights are always on. There's laughter inside. It's not the home I grew up in anymore. It's better. If you're listening to this and you see yourself in my story, if you're the invisible one, the giver, the one who's always expected to sacrifice, I want you to know something. You don't owe anyone your life. Not your parents, not your siblings, not anyone. Family is supposed to be a source of love and support, not a tool for exploitation. And if the people who are supposed to love you only value what you can give them, they don't love you. They love what you do for them. There's a difference. It took me 30 years to learn that. I hope it doesn't take you as long. Walk away if you need to. Cut them off if you have to. Reclaim your life, your money, your peace. You are not a burden. You are not an ATM. You are a person, deserving of love, respect, and recognition. And if your family can't see that, find people who can. Build your own family, your own home, your own life. Because at the end of the day, The best revenge isn't cruelty. It's freedom. And I am finally, blessedly free.